Advertising is a paid, sponsored message for a brand. The goal with that particular message is ultimately for you, in most cases, to buy the product. However, there are other goals that happen within that, and some of those are to change your attitude about something, to educate you about the particular product or brand. And so it is a brand communication. That is what advertising is it's telling a story about a particular brand. Yeah. Well, what I like about advertising is, it's constantly changing. That to me is always thrilling, but it's because it takes both right and left brain thinking. And you have to be good at both of them. And so it's a constant challenge from that particular end. And so even though I teach creative advertising, I still have to know a heck of a lot about strategy, because we don't just make stuff, it has to be strategic. And so it's really good for thinking skills, for creative thinking. You don't have to be a creative, but you have to be a creative thinker, and you have to be a strategic creative thinker. And that's what I think is so interesting and fun about it. The other thing is I also like it from a psychological aspect. Consumer psychology is all of it. I mean, all of it is based on getting inside the mind of the consumer. So if you're one of those people that likes to people watch, or you like to meet someone and go, well, I can already figure out what their personality, this is the kind of major that would thrill you, because you do that constantly. And then you apply that to these messages. Well, the first step is, take some kind of intro to advertising course. That gives you a full range of what is done in the field and kind of gives you an idea of what it is. Most people, as I've already said, tend to say, you're an advertising major, oh, you make TV commercials. You learn a lot more than TV commercials, so that's part of it. The other thing is that we have a lot in common with marketing. So taking a basic marketing class so that you understand some of those fundamentals that are actually incorporated within advertising. I mean, some people actually call advertising marketing communication. The difference between the two is marketing is only business oriented. Advertising is not only business oriented, but we add in the communication component. So you're kind of like that double star, when you go out, that you're a great communicator, but you also understand the business field. And so that opens up what you can do from a career standpoint tremendously. I think we all kind of know it's the digital realm. Matter of fact, companies come to us all the time and they go, I can no longer control my brand. And that's our biggest challenge now, is there is no control over brands. Consumers have a voice, and they have a very loud voice that is very obvious. YouTube, postings online, blogs, and all these other kinds of avenues. And so it is changing so rapidly that it's hard to keep up. And we don't have the control over the brand that we used to have. Now, there are two different camps on that. Some people say, yes, we still do have some degree of control, and this is how we can control it. Some are like, we have no control. So from an advertising standpoint, there still is some degree of control. You can still, kind of persuade, show certain kinds of messaging and things like that, but you also have to be incredibly honest, because they will catch you if you're not being incredibly honest. The other thing is ultimately what advertising has always been, but even more so today, is about brand storytelling. You have to tell the story of your brand, and you have to make that story something that resonates with your audience. All right, so I'd probably say one of the better brand storytellers is Starbucks. All right, first of all, Starbucks capitalized on what they saw out there when they, started their brand. And their brand is not, yes, it's about the coffee, but it's as much about the place itself and the atmosphere and this idea of creativity and how you can kind of make, they'll make any drink that you want any way that you want. Now, they'll charge you for it, but they'll make anything that you want. And so they have capitalized this on in a lot of different ways, but one of the ways that's very obvious, and it's part of that two-way communication between a consumer and a brand, is that they have a phenomenal website. And they have various little spots on their website where, hey, here are the different kinds of concoctions I've come up with, and they'll post those kinds of things on there. Some places, some individual stores will even have like so-and-so's, concoction, and this is the one for the month. They incorporate a lot more than just their coffees and teas in the store. You go in, there's always like a free app, for the month. And it's the atmosphere as a whole, and and the way that they lay it out. So all of it is telling a story. It's not just about what their advertising is doing; it's what their communication is, on an online, in print, and all those kinds of things. But it's also the building itself, the atmosphere itself, the people, and the way that their customer service is based. So the brand storytelling process is really kind of this 360. It's all of that stuff, incorporated together so that they're consistently saying the same story over and over again. Brands that run into problems are brands that either don't have a story to tell, the story is not interesting for people, there's no emotional connection, there's no connection to the brand in the end, or they have two different things. The store experience is very different than what their advertising would say, or the online experience. It needs to be cohesive. Yeah, it depends. It depends on how you want to see yourself, how you want to sell yourself, and what area you want to go into. I mean, a lot of our majors will go into, kind of junior account executive jobs where they're working, for a brand, and part of that is creating the strategy behind the brand. Some people will go into the creative end of things, and so you're actually creating ads. Some people will go into more media planning or buying, and that could be digital, that can be social. That runs the gamut. Some people go very specific, like they're a digital media planner versus just a media planner. But there's a lot more than that. Anything in marketing coordinators, marketing executives, those kinds of things you can go into. Human resources is a very common place where some of our students will go into afterwards. And then there are these, the kind of niche things, like, you might go work for Nike brand experience, marketing. We've had multiple students who've gone on to work for professional sports teams, and so they work in their marketing departments at those sports teams, because particularly in those cases, they like advertising majors, because not only do you know marketing, you also know communication, and communication is key in those particular fields. Well, that's always an interesting, because even the field itself, they're not sure where it's going. So that's kind of a tough question to ask, and a lot of it will be dictated by what consumers are doing, what they're following, and what the new cool app is that comes out, the new cool program that comes out. Twitter wasn't here, so many years ago, and so now we've got to incorporate Twitter. So I will say that the hot ideas, or the hot areas right now, they generally have that title digital to it, or social media, which is kind of broad, but truthfully, they tend to use the two synonymously. And I don't see that those are going to change. What will probably happen is they're going to become such second nature. It's just part of the marketing mix. It's just part of what we do, that they'll tend to over time drop those particular names and just call you a planner or a strategist, because it's implied within that term.